before I begin. If stories about real struggle, betrayal, and justice matter to you, please subscribe to this channel. It helps more than you know, and it lets me keep telling stories like this one. Alright, let me introduce myself, and my name is Austin Pierce. I'm 48 years old, and on March 11th, 2025, my entire life changed because of 4 sentences sent in an email. They thought I'd disappear quietly. They were wrong. The email arrived at 3:47 in the afternoon. Not during a meeting. Not during a call. It arrived while I was standing on the campus of UC Berkeley, watching my son, Lucas, give a campus tour to a group of prospective students. He was confident, focused, smiling in that way that tells you, your kid is going to be okay. I remember thinking, I did at least one thing right. Then my phone buzzed. Email. From HR. Subject line. Employment status update. Immediate. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. 4 sentences. That's all it took to erase 16 years. No phone call. No explanation. No warning. Just a corporate execution, disguised as a polite form letter. Dear Mr. Pierce, after careful consideration, your services are no longer required. 16 years. Gone. Lucas noticed something was wrong. Dad, you okay? I looked at my son, and I lied. Yeah, buddy. Just work stuff. I smiled, even as my entire world collapsed. I opened the email right there, in the California sunshine, surrounded by proud parents and excited teenagers planning their futures. And suddenly, I didn't know what mine looked like anymore. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up, because this didn't start that day. It started decades earlier, in Dayton, Ohio. I grew up in a family where Walmart was normal, and Olive Garden was considered fine dining. We didn't have money. We didn't have connections. And I definitely didn't have a computer science degree from Stanford or MIT. What I had was discipline, and countless late nights, teaching myself how to code. I believed something back then. I genuinely believed that if you worked hard enough, if you put your heart into something, it would eventually pay off. For 16 years, I poured everything I had into Vanguard Tech, one of Silicon Valley's rising giants. Every single line of code that powered their cloud infrastructure came from my fingertips, while executives sat behind glass walls, throwing around words like synergy and disruption. I was in the trenches, building the foundation that kept their $2.3 billion valuation alive. My salary grew over the years, from $85,000 to $210,000. Great money for most people, but modest compared to the millions flowing into the executive suite. I didn't complain. There was something almost meditative about clean code. Every function, every algorithm, felt like solving a puzzle that made thousands of lives easier. I arrived at the Palo Alto office every morning at 6, grabbed a large black coffee from the lobby Starbucks, and disappeared into work until long after dinner. My lower back ached constantly. 16 years hunched over keyboards. I told myself it was worth it. The CEO, Richard Caldwell, was everything I wasn't. Yale undergrad, Harvard MBA, connected family, the kind of man who casually mentioned golfing with venture capitalists. He drove a Porsche 911 Turbo S, lived in a house worth over $6 million in Los Altos Hills. For years, I thought we respected each other. He'd nod during my presentations, say things like, "Excellent work, Austin. This innovation sets us apart." I believed it meant something. I was naive. Looking back now, the signs were obvious. Hushed phone calls behind closed doors, lawyers appearing in conference rooms, conversations stopping when I walked in, but I was focused on a complex server optimization project. Office politics felt irrelevant. Then came that Tuesday in March. Lucas had invited me to Berkeley for Parents' Weekend. 19 years old. Sophomore. Studying computer science, just like me. I took the afternoon off. First time in months that I wanted to watch my son shine, and that's when my phone buzzed. 4 sentences. 16 years. and a company that thought I'd vanish without a sound. They had no idea what I still owned. The drive back to Mountain View that evening felt longer than it ever had before. I turned the radio up loud. KNBR Sports Talk. Giants pitching rotation. Trade rumors. Noise. I needed noise, because silence meant thinking, and thinking meant questions I wasn't ready to answer. Why now? Why after 16 years? What had I done wrong? Or worse, had I done everything right, and it still didn't matter? At a stoplight near San Mateo, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. 48 years old. Gray creeping into my beard. Lines around my eyes that hadn't been there 5 years earlier. Too old to start over. Too young to stop. Lucas's tuition flashed through my mind. $18,000 per semester. And my mom back in Dayton. $800 a month for her medication. The mortgage. 8 years left. I did the math without meaning to, and immediately stopped myself. No numbers. Just wait. I could have stormed into Richard Caldwell's office the next morning. Demanded answers. Forced him to look me in the eye. That's probably what he expected. A scene. An outburst. It would have made the story cleaner for him. Austin was unstable. We had to let him go. Instead, I surprised myself. I showed up at the office at 6 a.m. Just like always, same badge swipe. Same elevator. Same desk. I saved my work. Backed up my personal files onto a small USB drive. And began packing, slowly, methodically. 16 years of life fit into 2 cardboard boxes. A small cactus my sister gave me. A world's best coder mug from Secret Santa. Photos from company retreats. Lake Tahoe. Napa Valley. Smiling faces. People I trusted. Everything okay, Austin? It was Brian Collins from accounting. We used to play golf on Fridays, before work swallowed everything. Just reorganizing. I said. No drama? No bitterness. Not his fault. By 4:30 that afternoon, I walked out of Vanguard Tech for the last time. Honda Civic loaded with the remnants of my career. Carlos, the security guard, waved. See you tomorrow, Mr. Pierce. See you around, Carlos. I didn't correct him, that night. I did what anyone does when their life implodes. I ordered a large pepperoni pizza. Cracked open one of my homebrewed IPAs. And stared at my laptop, trying to understand how everything fell apart so fast. I started scrolling through old emails, looking for clues, warnings, anything I'd missed, and that's when I found IT.AN email from 2018. From my old mentor, Dr. Arthur Wallace. Subject line, patent documentation. Urgent. I froze. I'd completely forgotten about it. Back then. Dr. Wallace had reached out after hearing about a distributed computing algorithm I'd built. He wasn't impressed easily. And when he said something mattered, you listened. Austin, he'd written, this isn't just clever code. This is a fundamental breakthrough. He'd begged me to file for intellectual property protection. I'd resisted. Vanguard was my employer. I was loyal. I thought loyalty meant safety. Dr. Wallace didn't see it that way. He once told me why. He grew up in Appalachia. Son of a coal miner. His father invented a ventilation system, one that saved lives. The company took it. Paid nothing. His father died of black lung at 52. I won't let that happen to my students, he'd said. So he pushed me, relentlessly. He connected me with a patent attorney. Nathan Brooks, former Navy JAG. Left a major firm after refusing to screw over a small inventor. $18,000, Nathan told me. Nearly 5 months of my salary at the time. I hesitated. Then I remembered Dr. Wallace's voice. The urgency. The fear. I emptied my savings. Took out a personal loan. And filed. The patent was approved in mid-2019. System and method for autonomous data synchronization in distributed cloud environments. Filed under my name, Austin Michael Pierce, sole inventor. I buried it in a folder, and went back to work. Back to loyalty. Back to trusting the company, now, years later. I sat alone in my apartment, heart pounding, as I searched the patent database. There it was, active. Valid. 14 years left, and Vanguard Tech was still using it, not partially. Not occasionally. It was the core of their entire cloud platform. My hands shook. This wasn't a small optimization. This was the beating heart of their business. Every major client relied on it. Billions of transactions daily, and according to the law, I owned it, completely. That night, I didn't sleep, not from fear, from clarity. For the first time in 16 years. I wasn't loyal to a company. I was loyal to myself. And Richard Caldwell had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I sat inside a Pete's Coffee in downtown Mountain View, same place I'd stopped hundreds of times on the way to the office. This time, I had nowhere to be, laptop open, coffee untouched. For years, I'd written code without questioning ownership. Now, I was reading law, patent law, licensing law, employment agreements. The picture came into focus fast. Too fast. Vanguard Tech had been using my patented technology for nearly 6 years. Without a license. They'd assumed that because I was an employee, they owned everything I created. They were wrong. I pulled up my employment contract from 2014. I'd saved everything. Always had. Non-disclosure clauses. Non-compete language. No patent assignment. Not one line transferring ownership. Dr. Wallace hadn't protected me emotionally. He'd protected me legally. I called Nathan Brooks. Same number. Same voice. Austin Pierce, he said. I was wondering when you'd call. He already knew. Silicon Valley has a way of sharing secrets, especially expensive ones. Nathan, I said, I need to understand my options. They fired me, and they're still using my algorithm. He didn't hesitate. Let me be direct. You have them by the throat. Legally speaking, every day they used my technology was willful infringement. Damages, astronomical. We met that afternoon. His office hadn't changed. Small. Cluttered. Walls covered in patent diagrams and legal books. Nathan leaned forward. There's something else you need to know. He pulled up filings on his screen. Vanguard Tech was negotiating a merger. 6 months in progress. $620 million. Expected to close by mid-May. The acquiring company. Horizon Solutions, big, sophisticated, and obsessive about intellectual property. That's the problem, Nathan said. Due diligence requires clean ownership. When Horizon's lawyers see your patent, he smiled. That's leverage. He laid out my options: cease and desist, licensing demands, full litigation. Then he paused. Or we wait. I looked up. How long before they need full IP clearance? 4 to 6 weeks. Then we wait, I said. Let them get comfortable. Let them count money that isn't theirs. Nathan leaned back. Never negotiate while they still have hope. The weeks that followed were surreal. TechCrunch ran glowing headlines. The Wall Street Journal quoted Richard Caldwell. My former coworkers posted LinkedIn celebrations. Brian from accounting shared an email about growth and opportunity. Meanwhile, I collected unemployment checks and slept better than I had in years. The first call came late March. Unknown number. 650 area code. I smiled. Austin, Richard said. We need to talk. His voice shook. Hello, Richard, I replied. I'm surprised to hear from you. Cut the act. You know exactly why I'm calling. The IP audit had come back. Patent US 1084763. I let the silence breathe. There's no dispute, I said. The patent is clear. He tried bargaining, backdated agreements, stock options, consulting contracts. I refused. That would be fraud, I said calmly. Silence, then desperation. You'll destroy a $620 million deal. I'm not destroying anything, I said. I'm just enforcing what's mine. I hung up. The next morning, My phone exploded. Calls. Emails. Voicemails stacked on voicemails. I went to the gym. Treadmill. Headphones. Peace. The most interesting message came from Horizon's general counsel. Mutually beneficial resolution. That was corporate language for surrender. Saturday morning. I saw a Porsche in my parking lot. Richard Caldwell stood beside it. He looked smaller. Older. Behind him, a Tesla. Two boys in the back seat. His sons. He'd brought his family to beg. Austin, please. I looked at his kids, then at him. You fired me by email, I said. This is business. He offered everything. Money. Board seats. Power. I said no. I'll license my patent to anyone, I told him. Fair terms. No exclusivity. The merger? He asked. Your problem. He asked me to think of his family. That's when it broke. I thought of mine. Every missed dinner. Every weekend lost. Every sacrifice. You fired me with an email, I said. And now you want mercy. This isn't revenge. It's business. When the Porsche left, I didn't look back. The headline dropped on a Monday morning. TechCrunch. Vanguard. Horizon merger collapses amid patent dispute. No drama in the wording. No emotion. Just facts. But behind those words was chaos. The Wall Street Journal was less polite. $620 million deal dies after cloud giant discovers it does not own key technology. Richard Caldwell's quote was textbook corporate damage control. We remain committed to innovation. What he didn't say was that Vanguard stock fell nearly 40% overnight. Hundreds of millions erased. The company that fired me for being unnecessary was now fighting for survival. Nathan called that evening. Austin, every major law firm in Silicon Valley is calling. Half wanted to represent Vanguard. The other half wanted to represent me. That's how you know, he said. You're standing in the right place. Horizon walked away clean. They knew exactly what they'd found during due diligence. And Vanguard had no leverage left. Within 2 weeks, offers started coming in. Cloud providers. Enterprise platforms. They didn't care about loyalty. They cared about performance. Amazon Web Services made the first serious move. $35 million upfront. Plus royalties. Not bad for a kid from Dayton who used to think Olive Garden was fancy. Vanguard folded. $68 million. Back pay for 6 years. Non-exclusive license. Nathan didn't give them an inch. This is what rich people forget, he told me. They think time protects them. Sometimes it exposes them. Richard Caldwell was removed as CEO 4 weeks later. The board called it a transition. Everyone else called it what it was. A firing. I didn't buy Vanguard. I didn't need to. Instead, I built something better. I used part of the settlement to start a firm, Wallace Pierce Patent Advisory. Dr. Wallace came out of retirement. Same fire. Same purpose. We helped inventors protect what they built. Our first client was a young programmer from Detroit. Brilliant. Naive, just like me once. File the paperwork, I told her. Trust me. She did. 6 months later, her company tried to steal her work. They couldn't. She licensed it for millions. Dr. Wallace smiled. That's 2, he said. How many more before I forget what a patent is? As many as we can, I said. 3 years later. Vanguard Tech was a shell. Clients gone. Reputation destroyed. And Wallace Pierce was worth $200 million. 40 employees. 127 inventors protected. Over $300 million recovered. I hired 15 people from my old team. Brian Collins was the first call. You're my CFO. I told him. We played golf again. On Fridays. Like old times. Richard Caldwell works at Salesforce now. Not as an executive. ASA manager. No Porsche. No corner office. Just another badge. Lucas graduated from UC Berkeley last year. Same quad. Same son, this time. I was in the audience. Tuition paid. Proud beyond words. I want to join the firm, he said. I smiled. First lesson, I told him. Always protect what you build. I learned that from you. He said. My mom sent me a photo. Her house in Dayton, paid off. She was smiling. Your father would be proud. She wrote. At 51. I finally understand success. It's not working hard. It's working smart, and refusing to be erased. That $18,000 patent fee, best investment I ever made. Some people call it revenge. I call it justice.